and who to link with, but how they manage all of that. It's a new business. It's a new approach to how to do e-commerce. Linda Mann, who is the VP of Commerce at Digital Trends, a consumer tech site, comes with deep knowledge of this, coming from what in my mind is one of the best publishing innovations that I've seen over the last 6-7 years, and that's Wirecutter, which the New York Times eventually bought, a site that many of you may already be very familiar with, but it evolved its approach to content and e-commerce in one of the smartest ways that I've seen in recent years. So she brings that knowledge to Digital Trends, and one of the things she's going to be talking to us today about is diversifying your e-content strategy. So please welcome Linda Mann.
Wonderful, thanks, Steve. Oop. Get a little closer here. Well, so Steve already gave a fantastic intro, so I won't spend a ton of time talking about myself, but a little bit about me is I've worked on both the advertiser side and the publisher side. I came from a company that actually bought traffic with a bunch of publishers in the past, a subscription-based information services company. It's just as boring as it sounds for me to say. And then I went over to Wirecutter most recently, really to just build out their content commerce strategy, grow revenue there, very exciting place. And then moved to Digital Trends most recently as they were really heavily leveraged in social video, doing some very, very exciting things there that Wirecutter just wasn't yet equipped to do. And that's something that is an area that's just innately interesting to me. I want to tackle it. I want to kind of understand how we can try to layer in those commerce touch points there. It's an area that I think the entire market is struggling with. But really, I wanted to talk a little bit about a topic that I had to kind of shoulder when I was at Wirecutter, which was, I don't know if most of you understand or heard about this, but in the news in about 2017, Amazon decided to cut their affiliate rates. Does anybody hear about that? No? No? One person? Thanks. It's a big deal. So one thing, some of us larger publishers got a little bit more notice. They gave bloggers and a lot of the smaller publishers about a week. And why this is significant and why it's really, really something that the rate cuts were so massive that some of these publishers saw their business just cut in half within the span of about 2 days. So that's something that really forced a lot of us to look at on the larger scales. How do we make sure that we're a little bit? How do we make sure we're not over leveraged here? How do we make sure that we're safeguarded? So before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about some of the reasons this stream is really important to both publishers and to brands. So. For advertisers, it's a very, very low risk, low acquisition channel. They're only paying if they sell a product. They're capturing a lot of great in-market customers. And for us as publishers, it's a stable source of revenue. It earns in the background. We don't have to have a massive sales team out all the time. We can put up a link, put up a piece of content, and update it. It's pretty low lift for the most part. It really helps us diversify from our sales force. Here's a picture of what the Amazon rate card looked like before the cut. So you can see this right here. If you're a publisher, moving a bunch of product. If you're a blogger, you're doing pretty good. If you're moving 3,000 products a month, you're earning 8.5% on anything. That's anything you write about. T-shirt, computer, whatever you want. So this is really, really nice. If you were a blogger or any sort of publisher, this was something where, it was really just a volume game at that point. This is a little hard for you to read. This is the cut. This is the rate card as it sits currently. So you can see there, unless you're hawking luxury beauty or Amazon coins, don't even know what Amazon coins are, you took a pretty significant cut. So, if you think about that, back to that top tier of 8.5%, there's nothing here outside of luxury beauty and Amazon coins that's even close to that. The biggest technology publishers, electronics, if you were in that vertical, you saw, 2% for televisions. So again, short period over time, that was something that, just was crippling to a lot of publishers. And before we, got the phone call to talk about this was something that, was very, very alarming. So once they did that, really we had to kind of think about Digiday, everybody had to think about, okay, we got to double down here. We got to look at our internal processes and see where we can try to make sure like we're safe. So I showed a couple examples really from Insider Picks, Business Insider's brand. It's hard to see up there, but these are commerce links. These are commerce placements, and this is sort of how we're all trying to kind of diversify in this landscape, get away from Amazon, strengthen our relationships with our partners. Affiliate's a very interesting channel in that about 90% of our relationships are client direct versus agency. So it's actually been a very interesting way for us to, start conversations for some of our media teams, for some of our direct teams. But you'll see up here, in the Insider Picks example, there's one link up there for Amazon. You got links for Ulta, you got links for Sephora. For us, we're surfacing some buttons that are both featuring Walmart, Crutchfield, just competitors in the space where we can not only have a direct conversation with about media, but we can also talk about having a more holistic package. This is another thing that a lot of us are doing, which is just getting out and away from categories that Amazon sells. So product categories, looking into services, subscriptions, app downloads. You can see Wirecutter over here. They're getting massively and massively diverse, so they're not so caged by the product categories that Amazon is focusing on. And then just some thoughts on really where I think the industry is headed and some things that I'm really, really excited about. I'll share a little case study from a partnership that we did with Dell. So really, if you're thinking about acquisition and thinking about this channel, we were able to put together a piece of content for Dell, leading to Dell Marketplace. Not someplace that I think anybody ever probably thinks to buy products. I don't know how many people in here really knew that they were selling Bose headphones or other things, but that's something that was really, really important to them as a brand. So up on that top, those top stats, that's Google. So $15,000 in spend, estimate, you get 9,000 clicks, $1.63 CPC. This is a small test that we run with our inside sales team on the affiliate side. They spend about $5,000, one little piece of content, cost us almost nothing. Dell saw 3,000 clicks and climbing within the span of a couple of days and 80-cent CPC. So if you look at the economics of that as a brand, you rethink maybe some of your, SEM dollars, moving that in different places and really trying to, hammer home some of the events and things that you're doing on the brand side. It's very interesting. Another thing that we are doing really, and that a lot of brands are doing, I think CNN, a lot of companies, a lot of these publishers, we're trying to kind of collapse our sales forces. If, we're in a unique position, we're still small enough where, I can still call up a sales team. We're not huge, they'll take my call. But, trying to see how we can be a little bit smarter and collapse the funnel to a degree. So, this is something that we did with with HP, where we featured them in a video to promote an anniversary sale. That's a very, very heavy awareness. That was something that our media team sold around as well. And then we produced content that was lower funnel that really drove sales and engagement to their sale. Saw a lot of success there. And one of the things I'm most excited about, which I think that, Complex was up here earlier, doing a lot of great things, hot ones. I buy the hot sauce, I love it. As a consumer, the branded and sponsored branded and sponsored products is something that I think we'll see a lot of in the future. And I want to play a quick video on that.
All-Star games are great, they're the best in the world. But some of the hardest basketball games that I've ever seen have taken place in the park. The international pickup game rule. No blood, no fucking foul. I don't care. Check. I like these guys. You too. See that picture right there? This dope street photographer named 13th Witness. He shot that picture. Right, I'm gonna hook you up with some Levi's gear. We're gonna meet some cool people.
Here we go.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Mustachio, that's a layup.
It's not a layup contest.
So we are all here for this today. Adidas Chinese New Year shoe. It says my name on the box. I feel like Charles Barkley up in this bitch. Oh, this is a nice shoe. You don't see many boots with that leather in the front. You don't see many with this Chinese New Year. We're gonna race. Yeah, let's race. The reason we're waiting until after the haircut is just so I'm more aerodynamic. We like to celebrate Afro-Asiatic Caribbean food cultures.
Yeah.
This is gonna be the best bite if you want it. Oh yeah. Sensual.
My vision for this was really to try to have like a town hall meeting and a gathering. Instead of having a typical sneaker drop, making it like a more cultural experience, get some of the legendary OGs in here.
Hey guys, I'm Matty Matheson. Today you can really see what happens behind the scenes on what it's like to be Matty Matheson while making a commercial.
Why the fuck is there a treadmill? The fuck? Like, is this... Yeah. I'm making money? What is it? Making a lot of money. How much money?
I am Matty Matheson, and I am here in the most glorious studio ever. Come, try. Are we proud of what we've created? Check.
Back to the house.
Boom.
Don't you want to see what the fuck that's about?
So that's Network, someone that I'm watching really closely. I'm really excited about. They're, as publishers, we have this unique opportunity. We provide independence, we provide authenticity, and a lot of just great distribution. So I was at a conference last week speaking with folks from CNN, Business Insider, CBS, and this is an area that everyone's looking at right now to try to diversify their commerce revenue streams, work on, probably not something quite at that scale, but instead of just the traditional model of, hey, we'll promote your brand, we'll put a link up, they're going to click, working together, collaborating on something that, is true to their editorial voice and their model, and then it's something that really, you get a much higher margin on the back end as a publisher. So, yeah. With that was a pretty quick little twirl. Does anyone have any questions?
How is, are you finding any impact of affiliate links on your SEO strategy and on Google, on discoverability on Google?
I'm sorry, did you say impact?
Do affiliate links on your pages impact your SEO?
They do, yes.
Up or down?
Down for the most part if we're not careful. So yeah, that's definitely something that.
Well, what are some of the things you need to do to ensure against it?
Google's. I mean, they're as much as there's the scary beasts. They're pretty smart. So making sure that things are put in there organically. You're not just adding links wherever to add a link. Making sure things look organic. There's not just you're not putting something in every single paragraph just for it to be there.
Hi, Dustin Park from Penske Media. I was curious about the Dell campaign and the CPC you were talking about. Was that CPC to gain traffic on your site, and how much money how did you measure profitability on those campaigns?
Yeah, so profitability for us was very high. It was really just producing the content and then setting it live. For Dell, the CPC was really for how many clicks that we were sending to Dell Direct to their marketplace.
So it was like a sponsored article more so than an affiliate link for that campaign. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Is Amazon negotiable? I mean, I've had some publishers who have talked about going back to Amazon and cutting deals with Amazon to change their rate.
Yeah, they're negotiable to a degree. They're definitely a put up or shut up type person, right? Obviously, they're not going to increase rates for nothing. So that sort of creates a whole nother problem for you. So they're definitely someone that you try to keep at bay, but also play nicely with, and you can kind of choose to go the real hyper aggressive route, or kind of choose to try to diversify.
Because we all need another frenemy. How does...
we could be sold out for a day and they could see 0 impressions, or there could be 1,000 reasons why they aren't spending through the PMP. So I always just want to level set things as it's just a way to access the inventory, but there's no contracts in place.
Got it. So eMarketer recently, last month actually, released a report that they're anticipating 50% or PMP sales to overtake open auction spending within programmatic next year. This year, they're forecasting it to be actually pretty close to 50-50. I'm curious, how does that line up with your guys' reality? Starting with Jeff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so for us, we own a variety of different O&Os and properties, so it varies depending on the brand. As you can imagine, Wall Street Journal is very different than Realtor, just in terms of audience and scale. But I would say that we definitely see it headed in that direction. Specifically on some of the larger properties, we're getting a lot of traction there.
Just out of curiosity, is this working? Okay. Out in the crowd, what do you guys want to know about PMPs? Like, are you guys selling a lot of them? Do you not care about them? Because we chatted yesterday and we're all like, yeah, we get PMPs. They're a pretty big part of our business. We have a system going. But what's helpful for you guys to know? Like, how to define PMPs or?
Let's take a step past defining PMPs. How are you differentiating what goes into PMPs and making that valuable from what's in the open auction? And I guess the question is, like, why should advertisers care about PMPs now? We know why it was before, but like, why now and why going forward?
I can start with that for sure. So as part of the initiative I'm on at News Corp, we have a division called News IQ. And essentially what that is doing is leveraging all of the first-party data across all of the properties and allowing buyers to take that and buy across property. So we're doing that also. We do it through both managed services and through PMPs. And currently, that is the only way to buy News Corp inventory with first-party data across property. So for us, data is a really key differentiator that we can kind of leverage outside of just pure audience.
Would you be willing to say what percentage of your PMPs are audience-based or contextual-based?
So for News IQ, it's 100% audience-based because that's what what it was designed to do.
I'd say we're 70-30. 70 audience, 30% contextual. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, I think, are further than me on that. I mean, I don't put any data on it right now. But like 35% of our business is PMP, right? I use scale, like, because we have 100 newspapers all around the country. I mean, that's a pretty large footprint, right? So I sell that, our volume. But the buyers that want local news, at least that I've ran into, they want the loyal consumers. They don't want the fly-by traffics, right? Just coming there because they saw something on Facebook. So we haven't even really gone down that road. I think the 50% is not out of question if we're already at 35, but we've been actually just pulled the numbers this morning. This month we're like at 33, right? But we hover right around 30, 35. I was curious to the crowd, is that about the range or is it lower? Is it much higher? What can we learn, back from, I mean, we're all in this together, right? So yeah, just a curiosity, like 30% is PMPs in your business, raise your hand. 20%, 10%, 0%. Yeah, 40, 50%. Yeah, right. So, I mean, great.
And you're not including PGs in that number, right?
Yeah, so the way that I consider it, there's direct and there's indirect, right? Indirect's everything else. If we broker some native deals, PMP, right? Exactly. Yep. So yeah, I hate the whole terminology PMP because, like we were saying yesterday, like it's such a bullshit word. It's like it includes 4 different things, right? What is it? Can we just, as an industry, throw it out the window and it's just reserved and unreserved?
I don't know if we need another acronym though.
Exactly.
That's where we lead to.
We all love acronyms,
right.
though. So.
No, but to your question about like the value prop, it's tough. And when you just think of like what goes on in the open versus what goes on when you kind of speak to a human, you're able to give more customer service. So what that means when you're working with a newspaper, there's a lot of worries about brand safety. News isn't nice all the time, and it's not always something that brands want to be adjacent to. So I can work out specific deals with advertiser X to ensure that they're only going to be in lifestyle content, or I can block news entirely or focus on specific keywords. So if there is kind of like that value prop versus the open, it's just working with a person.
Yeah, I would say as far as like the data, right? Like we're not doing anything special, but when you work when you're working with like a Target, right? They don't want to be associated with political, death, any of that stuff. So we have to block news. We're a news company. They want to be on lifestyle entertainment, but they want that. They know our users are loyal. They come to our sites every day, but they basically have like 20 blocks, right? I don't know if any of you guys work with Target on anything, but it's like, here's our block list. It's like, well, there goes our whole website except for entertainment.
Target's an interesting example because I think it illustrates the difference between how different buyer strategies are, and I mean, how flexible and how do you build that into your organization? I mean, on the programmatic side, I mean, the flexibility to respond to the wide array of strategies and needs that you might see on the buy side.
I can take this one. And this also sort of ties into Scott's question earlier, which is like, how do you set up the value prop? I think the way we look at it, and I'm curious, you should probably go check this out yourself, but if we pulled a report for Dotdash of CPMs for the open marketplace for private auctions, PDs, and then also PGs and then direct. You see a clear ladder going up in terms of the open market CPM for some inventory is going to be, what, $2, $3, and it goes up to 4 to 5 for PAs, 8 to 9 for PDs, if not 12 to 13, and then finally on direct, you're doing like 14, 15, depending on the vertical. So there's like a clear value prop there where if an advertiser wants quality, like sort of inventory, they're gonna have to pay more for it, and we tell them that. And then the other thing is performance also increases as you go up. So, let's say Target is buying. We've had clients where like, we can buy you for, $2 on the open. Why would we want to buy you through a PD where it's more expensive? And what we say is, look, when you're buying on the open, all you see from the demand side is the site domain. Like, you're buying the spruce, but .com, but you could be, getting really shit inventory at the bottom of the page. You don't really know what's going on. And then so I also recommend like pulling a report for you guys in viewability for the open market, PAs, PDs, PGs, and so on. For us, we see the open market viewability is usually hovering around 50%, 60%. Once you get into PDs and PGs, that's when you're getting 70%, 80%. And so for advertisers, we're like, if you want performance, if you want that 70% viewability, if you want us helping you target to where you could be performing better, you're gonna want to do the PDs and sort of the more direct relationships, if you want.
Yeah, to add to that, I think we touched on it yesterday, like, we want to be as flexible as possible, right? We want, if you say jump, we say how high, as long as you're spending money with us, right?
We have the SSPs, like, we don't
Yeah,
care what
like,
you go
I don't
through.
care what you go through, but like, be connected to everyone. Like, I like to say partner agnostic, like, because if somebody says, well, I only buy on AppNexus, right? Great, I've got them in EB and TAM, so you can buy us through there. Great, or whatever. There's 37 other ones out there. So just have everything available so you can be as flexible as possible. And then it's like, I think did we say yesterday, like, in terms of like a rate card, like for each of these levels, again,
You should
be flexible. Like, all right, you want $1 lower? Great. You want $1 higher? Great. Means nothing to me. Just spend as much as you possibly can.
So, and Brendan, yesterday you had an interesting story kind of around GDPR and kind of what it forced you to do, adapt your strategy into more performance, and talked a little bit about how you even structured some of your site and packaged that together. Where are people finding it valuable from the Guardian in terms of deals? What are they typically asking you guys for?
Sure. And I can even kind of start kind of based on like some changes that the site's seen. So when I started at The Guardian in September 2015, I'll remember my first week, a lot of my new colleagues were kind of giving me a hard time because as someone who's managing like the surplus inventory of a website, I didn't realize that we had just gone through a site redesign. And what that was is to focus on the user. So to ensure that everyone's going to have a better time on the site, we reduced the ads by 30% across the whole site. So
are you guys lazy loading too?
Yeah. But at the time, you know, if I come in and I have a goal that I have to hit.
To me, PMPs are here to stay. Like programmatic buying and selling of impressions is here to stay.
Brands are getting smarter. They know that they can hire the person as opposed to spending $100,000 a year on an agency, or or more, right? A hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, why don't we just pay somebody, in the Midwest at least, like 60, 70, 80 grand to just manage this business, and we just saved, however many hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. So for us, like that's the premise that we're on, and so we're all in on programmatic and building out a sustainable org. The way we work is our sales team sells integratedly, so they sell both direct and programmatic, and then we have sort of like a cross-functional programmatic team that's super lean for us. We're like 5 people. There's someone who does programmatic ops, so she manages the open marketplace, which something that I think is converging more and more closely with just PMP sales in general. So there's that, and then we have a like PMP ops expert. So this woman is like in and out talking to SSPs. Like when new products come out, she's like, yes, this is how you execute, and she's sort of like the consultant to all the account strategists on the actual sort of sales team. If they ever have PMP questions, she's the one that sort of helps solve and answer those questions for them. So I definitely recommend, I think it's worth investing in, if you care about PMPs, investing in someone who has PMP operations experience, understands the stack and all the details and all that, because that's going to kickstart your business, I think, like right away. And I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think the way that our company thinks about it is, do we hire, like a McClatchy, right? You guys, what Nick say, you guys got 4 or 5 people in New York?
We have 2 right now.
Or 2, right? So the way that I look at it, and me and my bosses talk about it, it's like, all right, do we spend potentially $500,000 a year to throw a few people up in New York on salaries? Or do you just work a little harder and we'll just bonus you? Yeah, I'll work a little harder and make more money myself.
Right. I think
so I'm going to say no to throwing people in New York, but I think we need 1, maybe 2, possibly. But all the brands that are spending money, they're all in like the Midwest, right? For the most part, and in the South. So I'm in Cincinnati, so it's like I can be anywhere within like an hour probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is also more specifically for like operations. Like it sounds like you're selling and doing the ops.
Yeah, well, we do have a few ops guys on our team,
right.
But they're more troubleshooting. They're more kind of yield guys. They help with reporting. Like we just brought on a great guy. He's basically my counterpart, but to take over a lot of that kind of operational part of the job, so I can actually concentrate more on selling. That's what I was hired for a year and a half ago, but my predecessor left. They're like, we're not going to replace her. It's all you now. It's like, ugh. It's frustrating, but we're getting there.
Yeah, and I think just about everyone. I mean, I think it makes sense. Every organization seems to have like a programmatic ninja, and it was almost born out of necessity. But as it becomes a little bit more mature and a little bit more organized, some of those responsibilities are starting to break down, and we have to. Some of us ninjas have to give up and teach some others some of this other stuff. Brendan, what about you guys? How are you typically? What are you guys doing on the sales side? How are you structured there to go to market with PMPs? Are there other channels? A lot of these DSPs have marketplaces. Do any of those perform for you guys? Do they bring in, a sizable amount of leads or business?
Yeah, I mean, I think every deal is going to be kind of a hit or miss, again, when it's non-guaranteed. But in terms of structure, we have a small sales team. I think there's about 7 across the whole country right now. But something I definitely kind of want to like address, and we've all kind of talked through, like training, coaching, education. For me, as someone who's been kind of doing this for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, that never really ends. This stuff's so complicated. You kind of have to like be reading the trades every day. I mean, I do it, you know, I go through either Ad Exchanger and, you know, a handful of others, spend time on LinkedIn.
MediaPost?
Yeah.
You ever go to that MediaPost?
Do I have to pay for MediaPost? No? All right, then perfect. I'll go there every day.
It's interesting you bring that up because, I mean, with all the noise, do you find a lot of disinformation out there as well as
fake news
training,
Yeah.
you know, specifically around programmatic?
No, I mean, I like going on LinkedIn because I feel like programmatic's kind of like a place where everyone's trying to be the smartest person in the room.
Yep.
And I like sometimes, you know, granted I'm up here now, but sometimes it's cool to just sit there and listen. And on LinkedIn, everyone's kind of like giving away a lot of cool like secrets and stuff. So that's a good place to get some new ideas and strategies.
I literally have LinkedIn just open all the time on my computer.
Yeah, yeah.
If I'm on a call, I can like ping over real quick, like
Right.
see who it is, connect, send them a note. What's your email? What's your phone number?
I think just having the connections with other people is really where you get the insights, and you ask them, what are you doing, trying to figure it out, because it's, it's hard to do in a silo, that's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely have a text chain with other pubs. And every time a new vendor comes across, or if somebody has a big deal, it's like, are these guys full
You
of
heard of
shit?
these guys?
Yeah, totally.
Another company from Tel Aviv.
Yeah. But it's definitely helpful. Again, it's super confusing. There's a new acronym every day. There's a new company every day. So I need help staying on top of it.
So speaking of the acronym, there's also, it seems like, a new platform every day, and a lot of what we've talked about over the last 2 days from other folks is, you know, about Apple News and podcasts and, you know, maybe Facebook. I don't think anybody's mentioned Facebook Instant Articles, but all these different platforms, and they've got different technological requirements. Do you guys spend a lot of time in extending your programmatic tech stack into those platforms where you can, or does that, you know, does that aspect of it, where we may have a limited ability to sell programmatically, play into the role of, you know, maybe product pushing into some of those platforms?
Yeah, I just shook my head. No, we don't do. We're very much focused on our O&O. There's not too much. We're building our social presence, but it's not much distribution there. 2 years ago, we were playing around with Google AMP. That's because Dotdash is like 80% SEO search traffic. So we thought, or people said, if you moved all your articles to AMP, then, you know, they'd rank higher, get more traffic. And then later on, it turns out we did a test first on this is more on the product side, but our actual mobile pages run as fast as AMP anyway. And so there really wasn't a point for us to invest all of that effort in there. And then the monetization point, like we could not monetize AMP as well as, you know, our actual mobile pages. And things might be a little bit different now. It's worth like
they've grown over
but
the last year. They're starting to allow a couple more things on there, so you might could revisit it.
What about you, Jeff? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that we do. We probably do it more so. The different views all sort of operate very differently in terms of how they sort of dip their toes in the water, and so it's probably less of a corporate thing and more so up to each individual business unit how they want to handle that, because they just operate differently.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point, because all of our websites are so different. And I've worked at a few pubs. I can't speak for every publisher, but we all pretty much have Frankenstacks, you know, like, and if you're like you guys managing a bunch of different publishers, like it's not one size fits all. So like I only manage one website, and even I'm trying to test a lot, but I can imagine it must be a nightmare for you guys trying to find new solutions for hundreds of different
and multiple CMSs and different designs. You know, because it works in one market, it might be completely different in a different market.
So curious to know if there's any additional questions. I mean, you know,
wanted
gonna add
sort of
to-
I wanted to take the flip side of your question, Nick, and go back to platforms and PMPs versus the platforms, since you're all competing with the platforms. Where are you finding the most traction or resonance with brands in your selling proposition, competing with the platforms themselves? What aspects of your private marketplaces really are resonating most with your clients as the place to be, rather than simply making the easier buy on one of the platforms?
Is that for you? Again, it's performance. It's the customer service we're going to deliver. And you know, like I said before, news can be challenging in terms of content. I wager that Facebook can be in that same boat. So it's putting together packages that are going to put brands in a positive light and not adjacent to content they don't want to be around.
Yeah, I'd say back to just being flexible, right, and let them, like, first thing I ask, what do you need for this campaign to work, or for you to come back? I just ask them flat out, and generally they say, well, I need to hit this, this, and that. Like, we will do our absolute best.
It's a sort of a cop-out, but for Dotdash, it's our intent. Like, you go to Facebook and you're just scrolling down the news feed, you're not in that purchase sort of intent mindset, whereas if you're searching about how to cook a turkey tonight or whatever, you know you're about to go buy a turkey at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's data and audience, but then on the flip side for the PMP is also buyer insights. So we're able to kind of tie our bid data together through pre-bid and our analytics, and kind of give better insight to the buyers as to outside of just kind of their win rate, as to, you know, what they're winning on, how to win more, and then also optimization in terms of specific units, so we can actually help them even if they're the one buying, you know, give some actual guidance. Not the same as managed service in terms of us doing it all for them, but you know, we're kind of giving them the information, and hopefully they use it.
Yeah, it's a great question, but it's incredibly complicated.
Well, those are 4 different answers, which is
Right.
really interesting to me.
Yeah.
There were 4 different answers.
And yeah, at the end of the day, it really is. It's dictated by the buyer. And you know, one thing that we've worked really hard over the last 3 months on is getting those expectations up front, understanding what the buyer's looking for, understanding what their performance metrics are, what kinds of things they want to be, you know, whether, you know, brand safety wise away from. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, you got to remember that on the other side, they're applying a lot of times their own data. And it's unknown how good our audience is going to match with theirs prior to. Sometimes it's fantastic. Sometimes, you know, it's once in a blue moon, and those are the deals that just don't spend very well. But yeah, being flexible and getting those expectations and monitoring them are incredibly important, because a lot of times you may get dropped from a programmatic plan, and it's not like you get an email. They just push a button, and it could be 2 weeks, and somebody, you know, well, what happened here? Nobody knows. So it's definitely something that we've taken seriously, is getting those expectations up front.
I was going to add to that. I've gotten pretty good at learning that buy side, simply because my wife works for Kroger and she's a marketing manager. Her and her team are putting together the KPIs and the plan. Then they just kick it over to their buy group, and all they do is just execute it. So if you say, can you send me your KPI sheet or your plan sheet or whatever? They go, well, we can, you know, do a screen share, and they're like, we need to hit this, 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 and that. Like, all right, let me get back with you here in a couple hours.